In the quiet little town of Maple Creek, there lived a golden retriever named Barnaby and a Siamese cat named Seraphina. Now, Barnaby wasn't just any dog. He was the self-proclaimed king of the backyard, a connoisseur of squeaky toys, and a firm believer that the mailman was a clandestine agent from a rival squirrel syndicate. His world was one of simple joys, sunbeams, belly rubs, and the glorious, unending quest for the perfect stick. On the other side of the fence, in the house with the pristine white picket fence, lived Seraphina. She was elegance personified. With fur like spun moonlight and eyes the color of a summer sky, she ruled her domain from the highest perch on her cat tree. Her days were a carefully curated series of naps, graceful stretches, and silent, judgmental stares at the lesser beings scurrying outside her window. She believed the world was her stage, and everyone else was merely a clumsy extra. Their rivalry wasn't born of malice, but of fundamental philosophical differences. To Barnaby, the world was a giant, slobbery, wonderful playground. To Seraphina, it was a delicate tapestry that Barnaby was constantly threatening to unravel with his muddy paws and boisterous barks. Their first real clash happened on a Tuesday. Barnaby had discovered a new, exceptionally bouncy tennis ball. In his ecstatic frenzy, he launched it high into the air. The ball sailed in a perfect arc, not into his yard, but directly over the fence, where it landed with a soft thump in the middle of Seraphina's perfectly manicured patch of catnip. Seraphina, who had been meditating on the profound emptiness of a birdless sky, was jolted from her trance. She peered down from her windowsill, her tail twitching in irritation. There, sullying her sacred herb garden, was a grotesque, neon yellow sphere. An affront to all that was tasteful and serene. Barnaby appeared at the fence line, his tail wagging so hard his whole body wiggled. He whined, a hopeful, pleading sound that translated roughly to, "Oh, revered and majestic feline neighbor, could you possibly return my most cherished possession?" Seraphina narrowed her eyes. She descended from her perch with the fluid grace of flowing water, approached the ball, and gave it a delicate, disdainful sniff. Then, with a single, precise flick of her paw, she sent it rolling under a dense rose bush, its thorns a formidable fortress. She looked back at Barnaby, gave a slow, deliberate blink, and sauntered away, her tail held high like a victory flag. Round 1, Seraphina. Barnaby was heartbroken. He spent the rest of the day sighing dramatically by the fence, occasionally letting out a mournful howl that Seraphina completely ignored by pointedly grooming a paw. The next day, Barnaby plotted his revenge. His human had just bought a new remote-controlled toy mouse. It was small, fast, and incredibly annoying. While Seraphina was sunbathing on the patio, completely absorbed in the complex art of doing absolutely nothing, Barnaby nudged the remote with his nose. The little mouse zipped under the fence and began skittering around Seraphina's patio in frantic, unpredictable circles. Seraphina's eyes snapped open. Her hunter's instinct, long dormant beneath layers of domestic luxury, roared to life. She crouched low, her body a coiled spring of predatory focus. The mouse darted left. She twitched. It darted right. Her tail twitched. She pounced. But the mouse, guided by a gleeful Barnaby, zipped away just in time. This continued for a solid 10 minutes. Seraphina, the picture of grace, was reduced to a flailing, pouncing, increasingly frustrated ball of fur, chasing a cheap plastic toy. Finally, the mouse zipped straight into a small puddle left by the sprinklers. Seraphina, in hot pursuit, landed squarely in the water with a most undignified splash. She sat there, dripping and mortified, as the little mouse short-circuited with a sad little fizz. Across the fence, Barnaby let out a triumphant woof. Round 2, Barnaby. The Cold War escalated. Seraphina learned to mimic the sound of the squirrel that drove Barnaby absolutely wild, sending him into barking fits at 3 in the morning. In retaliation, Barnaby figured out how to turn on the garden hose, aiming the sprinkler directly at Seraphina's favorite sunning spot on the windowsill. It was a battle of wits, of strategy, of fur and fong. The climax arrived during the annual Maple Creek Pet Fair. Both Barnaby and Seraphina were entered into the pet talent show. Seraphina's human had taught her a delicate routine involving leaping through a series of small, decorated hoops. It was elegant, precise, and frankly, a bit boring. Barnaby's talent was simpler. His human would throw a frisbee, and Barnaby, with unparalleled enthusiasm, would catch it. Simple, effective, a real crowd pleaser. Seraphina went first. She was flawless. She flowed through the hoops like a wisp of smoke, landing each jump with a dainty poise that earned polite, appreciative applause. She shot Barnaby a look of pure, unadulterated smugness. Then, it was Barnaby's turn. He was practically vibrating with excitement. His human wound up for the throw. But just as the frisbee left his hand, a gust of wind, a freak, once-in-a-decade gust, caught it. The frisbee soared, not towards Barnaby, but straight up, over the crowd, and became hopelessly lodged in the highest branches of a giant oak tree. The crowd groaned in disappointment. Barnaby looked up at the tree, whimpering, his moment of glory lost. He tried to jump, but it was useless. His tail drooped. His big, happy doggy dream was stuck in a tree. And then, something remarkable happened. Seraphina, seeing the utter dejection on her rival's face, felt a strange, unfamiliar pang. It wasn't pity. It was empathy? She looked at the tree, then at the deflated dog. With a sigh that seemed to say, "Oh, for goodness sake, I have to do everything myself," she took a running start. She leaped onto the judge's table, then onto the back of a park bench, and then, with a powerful spring, launched herself into the oak tree. The crowd gasped. She moved through the branches not like a cat, but like a squirrel, swift and certain. She navigated the limbs with an agility that left everyone speechless. Finally, she reached the frisbee. She nudged it, pushed it, and finally dislodged it with a swat of her paw. The frisbee tumbled down, branch by branch, until it fell right into the waiting jaws of a stunned but grateful Barnaby. The crowd erupted. It wasn't just applause, it was a roar of approval. They hadn't seen a cat jump through hoops or a dog catch a frisbee. They had seen a moment of unexpected teamwork, of interspecies solidarity. Barnaby, frisbee in mouth, trotted over to the base of the tree where Seraphina was now gracefully descending. He dropped the frisbee at her paws and gave her a gentle, respectful lick on the head. Seraphina, for the first time ever, didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned into it for just a second, and maybe, just maybe, let out a tiny, almost inaudible purr. They didn't win the talent show, of course. The prize went to a parrot that could sing the national anthem. But Barnaby and Seraphina had won something far more valuable. An understanding. A truce. They were still a dog and a cat. Barnaby still chased his tail, and Seraphina still judged the world from her window. But sometimes, when no one was looking, a tennis ball would mysteriously roll from under a rose bush. And sometimes, a particularly noisy squirrel would find itself being stared down by a pair of piercing blue eyes, giving a certain golden retriever a few extra moments of peace. The rivalry wasn't over, but it had changed. It had become a game they both, in their own ways, had started to enjoy playing together. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this little story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more tales, and maybe let me know in the comments if you're on Team Dog or Team Cat. See you next time.